Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Shawn here from Insights, and today we're going to look at an ET200SP interface module that supports multiple protocols. And this particular unit, we're going to be using it with an S7 PLC again, like we've done with the other ones in the previous episodes, but this one actually integrates differently, and we're going to run into some roadblocks, so I thought it was worth showing you this because it's not exactly the same as the last two episodes, okay? Now, the other thing I want to say is that Siemens did sponsor this episode to make it ad-free. They also sent in the hardware so we could look at it. So we really appreciate when vendors do that. We're working with a lot of different vendors, and this particular episode is sponsored by Siemens, so there's no ads. Now, for our members, I am going to do a long version of this episode. So if you're a member, make sure you check to make sure you're watching not the standard, but the extended members edition, because there'll be an extra 10 or so minutes in the episode covering some additional things about this interface module. But in any case, for everybody in there, we're going to cover the basics of how to integrate this into your S7 PLC. And there's a couple things we're going to run into that you need to know the first time you use this. And hopefully it'll save you some headaches having me go through it first. But in any case, I'm going to switch over to the overhead camera and put my glasses on so we can get a closer look on this guy, because it looks so similar to the other units we looked at, especially the first episode we did. And that was an IM155 6PN, I think it was 2 or 6PN ST. This is a 6MF from Multi-Fieldbus HF. And so this particular unit can do Profinet, Ethernet IP, and Modbus TCP, which I think is so cool, right? So in any case, I was very surprised when I went to use it inside a TIA portal. Today I'll be using V17. I also tried it in V18. Everything I show you is the same for both. So I figured, well, since V18 had no advantage, I went back to V17. Again, I'm not using V16 because some of the I/O modules I have would require me to upgrade to 16 Service Pack 1, which I just don't want to, I don't have the time to sit around and install a half an hour upgrade, right? So in any case, will you be using V17 today? Whether you're in V17 or V18 or V16 SP1, you should see the same exact procedure. But in any case, let's go ahead and go over to the computer now and take a look at how this differs from the other ones we've used. And so here we are. As a matter of fact, let me put my headshot over there. And so the first thing I ran into, first of all, let me just talk about this program. This is the same start file I've been using. I just renamed it. So I have my S7 1200 in here. I have my ladder logic in here to test the buttons out on the trainer. This trainer out here in the field is one that can be used by students who come to in-person training here. And I kept all my PLC tags in here. So if you watch the previous episodes, you'll be very familiar with what I've done here. Now that said, the first thing I went to do before doing any updates, just plain Jane version 17, is I went to online and I went to hardware detection and I went to Profinet devices from network. And of course, I figured this is just going to work like all the other ones I've done, right? And so I did a start search, and what happened is it didn't. I actually got this error down here. And I'll throw up a picture of the error that popped up when I tried this. And so it said basically, it came down to, you need updated hardware catalog. This item is not in your hardware catalog. So you need to install some new GSD files. And so I went up to Siemens website. It was pretty easy to find these GSD files. But in any case, so I downloaded them and I unzipped them and I went through and installed them. I'll put up some B-roll of me installing them, and it took a long time. Now, this is a virtual machine. It's not a high-end, PC. It's a virtual machine that's designed to run with other virtual machines running. So I think it has 2 processors and 8 gigs of RAM. But in any case, I walked away and I worked on some other stuff while they were installing. So just keep that in mind. This process of having to install GSD files is something you have to do when you get a product that's newer or not in the hardware catalog that's in TIA Portal. Not a big deal. When you go to add the entire library of ET200SP, it does take a little while, 5 to 10 minutes. So, and then again, that's dependent on the speed of your computer too, right? So in any case, so I'm back here in the current version where I've already done that. And I'm going to select this device. It's the only new device I have on the network. And I'm going to click Add to add it to my project. And so it'll just take a few moments here to add that, and it will discover the I/O modules, but it doesn't discover everything. Like in the previous 2 episodes, when we did the PN version, 6PN or 6PN/3, it found everything perfectly. even with the updated GSD files, right, you can see it says successfully done. Well, we're going to find out that it wasn't successfully done, and it's a little gotcha. I thought it's so weird. But first, before we do that, let's get over here and let's connect the Profinet to the unit. Okay, now we're going to double click on it. And the first thing I said is, wow, this looks different. How come I can't use the slots like on my other ET200SP interface modules? And you can see a lot of the interface is over here now and not on the front of the unit. So I thought that was different. It's not a game changer. It doesn't ruin anything, but it's just like, wow, it's the user interface is a little different. So, you know, if you were going to try to standardize on this for all your projects, you just have to be aware you're going to lose a little bit of the user interface, at least in this version that I'm using. Again, version 18 and 17, the interface looked identical to me. So with that said, it's good that that's in there. And if we could find what I/O was mapped to, let's go, you know what I'm going to get down here to ungrouped devices, okay? And here it is. And I want to know, that's the other thing too, when I click on the device, I don't get that typical interface I would see, not even down here, right? I/O tags, nothing. Click on the I/O, nothing, right? It's very weird, right? But you can get to it. You can get to it. You just right click on it and go to properties, which I thought is what was happening when I double clicked on it, right? That I was going to bring the properties up down here. But in any case, it's just doing something here. Let's go properties. And there we go. Now we're seeing the interface we know and love when we're using the TIA portal. Okay, so let me make this a little bit wider here. And now I can see my I/O tags, and you can see my existing tags it took up. You know, the inputs are 1, and oops, can't do them both. Let's see here. Properties, and the outputs queues are at 1 as well. So at this point, we're like, hey, everything seems to be working, right? And we know we have to give the device a name, right? So let's go back here to device configuration. Nope, to devices and networks. Let's double click on this guy. And one of the things we want to do here is we want to set the Profinet name and the IP address. Now, I do want it to be 2. We had 213, 214, so this would be 215. Okay, and I want to give it a name. We're going to call this DIO underscore ET200SP underscore. This will be the third drop. Okay, and this will be this name here. I'm going to actually copy it out of there. I do have to assign that to the device. It will give it the correct IP address as long as I give the device the Profinet name, right? So in any case, so, and again, that was from the manual. That's a decision they made, a design decision they made. So let me go ahead and save this project as done. Even though we're not done with it, we're going to save it as done, just so I don't overwrite my start. And that's good. Let's go here to accessible devices. You know, again, let me update what's out there. Okay, and now I see the new product. And again, I could give it the IP address and Profinet name here, but just to prove that I don't have to give it both, I'm just going to give it the Profinet device name. Again, if some of you guys didn't see my previous episodes, and it's deleted it out of the clipboard, so let me come back in here, ET200SP underscore, we're going to call this 3, the third rack. Okay, so let me copy that. Let's make sure my copying is working. Good, good. So I've given it its name, right? And if I assign this name, I don't have to assign it its IP address. The PLC will take care of that, which I think is cool. And again, I mentioned that in case you didn't see the previous episodes. That's something you got to know about Siemens. It's right in their own manual. It talks about they decided to commission devices with names versus IP addresses. Again, I could put the IP address in there if I want, but I'm not going to, so you can see that it'll get it automatically. So I'm going to come back up here to devices and networks, and I'm going to change the device name here, okay, to be the same as the Profinet name, just visually so I know I'm looking at the right thing. All right, well, let's go ahead and save the project again. I'll select the PLC, and I'll do a compile to see if everything is good. Now, because this is the same program I was using previously, the password's already in there. I already disabled the password, so I did that in a previous show because you have to do that in 17. It requires that you make that choice. So that's a good idea, but I'm on the workbench, so I'm not going to worry about it. Passwords here in my little office. So in any case, let's go ahead and download it to this whole program to my S7, and let's do that here. Stop all, still running, overwrite, load. So this is not the same program that I was using earlier, totally different IO structure. And so we'll load this into the PLC, and then we'll start it back up. Then we'll go online and see if everything's happy. Now you would think at this point, everything's gonna be happy, right? Because I assigned, unlike in the previous episodes, I gave the device its name. Matter of fact, let me update this to see if it got its IP address. Okay, we'll open that up. We'll open this up. We'll go to Profinet channel. Whoops, let's close that. And yeah, it got it the right IP address. That's great. All right, so let's go online with the PLC and see what's going on over there. Okay. We got a problem down here with the distributed I/O. Let's check it out. Diagnostics, tell me what's going on. Oh, and I already have it. Let me close this guy down. Okay, and we'll open up these diagnostics on this guy right here. Okay, diagnostics says module exists error. Hardware component not available to a parameter assignment error. One of the parameters, one of the settings is wrong. What could be wrong? Well, let's read on. A hardware component was inserted, but an error occurred during the parameter assignment. The hardware component is either faulty, or it's a different version, or it doesn't match the version, right? And it's saying, hey, check the product version of the hardware, and ensure it's the same, it's the right one that you have. Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting. So we hadn't run into this yet. But if we go over here to this module, you can see it's this first module. If we go down here under ungrouped devices, DIO rack 3, we come down here, it's really only this first digital input card that has the problem. So let's go to his diagnostics, okay? Again, very similar. And it says down here, look at this, configuration error. Station stop, module parameter, potential group incorrect or wrong base unit. Aha. So why did it give it the wrong base unit? I don't know. But let's see if, I don't think that's something I can change online. Let's see here. Okay. Let's see here. Module parameters. It's in here somewhere. Look at this. Dark base unit. Okay. It's not what I'm using. Let's see here. We come out here, we can see just like all the other ones, I started with a light base unit because that starts a new potential group that feeds all the dark base units. Why did it pick the wrong one, I wonder? I don't know the answer to that. But in any case, let's see if we can fix this, if that'll fix our problem. And yes, that's something it's not allowing me to do online. So, which I understand, right? I'll go offline. In a lot of these diagnostics, it really is helpful. You've got to drill down to the right product. You know, like a lot of other companies who make programmable controllers, you got to drill down to that, to the fault. The higher levels don't really always point you to the exactly right thing. So drill down until you find the actual product that has the fault. And in this case, let's go back to properties. Again, you can see how the user interface is different for this, right? And so we'll go to potential group, and we're going to say enable new potential group. But I have so many questions. I haven't had a chance to dig into this. It took a lot of testing to get to this point so far, but I'd love to know why that is. Does it not need the white light-based, light-colored base like the other units do? Why doesn't it read in the base units? I don't know. I just don't know. So anyways, I have changed it. So let me save the done project again. Let me compile just to make sure there's no mistakes. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and download it. Okay, yep, we're going to load it in. So we have to install the updated GSDs. Then the configuration was different, getting to the properties, right? And then it had the wrong base unit. So 3 things different from the last 2 we used. And again, this is a cool product. It can work on multiple Let me go online here because the download's done, but it can work on multiple networks, which is, I think, is awesome. And look, we got all greens across the board. That's great. So now, if my ladder logic still works, we should be able to, let's go online here. Let's monitor. We should be able to, let me just test from here. Just test the first one. Oh, looking good. So let's go back out to the overhead camera and we'll test them. Yeah, everything's green. So we're really happy there. No flashing lights. And it's so hard to try to get everything lined up perfectly straight. But in any case, and I can see I need to fix that. Look at that. But in any case, let's go ahead and test them out. 1, 2, and for now, I just wired the inputs. You know, in the ladder logic, it's really just the input goes to the pilot light, right? The push button to the pilot light. So, guess what? These are 8-point modules. So these guys do nothing, but that's okay. So in any case, I did want to go through that with you. I thought that was really interesting how it configured so much differently. And that's why I'm putting these model numbers in the thumbnails and in the description or the title of the videos. So that if you, let's say this is the first interface module you're using and you're like, hey, why is it so different than the other ones? That way you'll know. Now, I would love to be sponsored to take a look at this on other networks. But for now, this is the end of the standard edition of this video. I hope you found that helpful. Again, remember those 3 things: GSD files. Remember when you go to install them, at least if you're installing all of the ET200SPs and you're on VMware, it's going to take 5 to 10 minutes. So get a coffee, go do something else. But in any case, the other thing is, keep in mind that the properties for this guy, again, I saw the same thing in 18 and 17. Tell me if I did something wrong, but I had to go and right click on the actual modules themselves under ungrouped, right? And you may have them grouped, but mine, I just added them, so they were all ungrouped. And I actually right click and go to properties to get to those properties. And then, of course, I had to change the base to a light new potential group versus the dark continue potential group. So 3 things that actually are different about this guy: the look and feel and the settings. So with that, if you're a member, stick around because we're going to go in through this and we're going to go into this in greater detail. We'll actually add it manually and see how that works. But for everybody else, I do want to wish you good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.